Street Fighter debuted in 1987. The player controls Ryu to compete in a worldwide martial arts tournament spanning 5 countries and 10 opponents. A second player can control Ryu's friend Ken Masters. The original punching pad cabinet was not successful as Capcom had planned, with only around 1,000 units sold. However, the alternate 6-button version sold in the tens of thousands. Street Fighter 2010. The Final Fight is a side-scrolling action platform game developed and published by Capcom for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1990. It was marketed as a science fiction-themed spin-off to the 1987 arcade game Street Fighter. The player controls Ken, a former martial arts champion who has been given cybernetic implants. Like most side-scrolling action games, the player uses one button to attack and the other to jump. Street Fighter II: The World Warrior came out in 1991. It is regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time and the most important and influential fighting game ever made. Its launch is seen as a revolutionary moment within its genre, credited with popularizing the fighting genre during the 1990s and inspiring other producers to create their own fighting series. It features a popular 2-player mode that obligates direct human-to-human competitive play, inspiring grassroots tournament events culminating in Evolution Championship Series. Street Fighter II became the best-selling game since the golden age of arcade video games. More than 200,000 arcade cabinets and 15 million software units of every version of Street Fighter II have been sold worldwide, earning an estimated $10 billion in total revenue, making it one of the top 3 highest-grossing video games of all time, and the best-selling fighting game until 2019. More than 6.3 million SNES cartridges of Street Fighter II were sold, making it Capcom's best-selling single software game for the next 2 decades. The game introduces the concept of the Street Fighter universe. The leader of the Shadaloo organization, m.bison, in his global domination plan sets up a world fighting tournament to select the best fighters to work in Shadaloo through brainwashing. Many of the other characters in the game have personal reasons for wanting revenge on Bison. The original Street Fighter II features a roster of 8 playable characters. This includes Ryu and Ken, the main protagonists from Street Fighter. There are also 4 non-playable characters representing the Shadaloo organization. Between the early 1991 and early 1993, Street Fighter II had captured about 60% of the global coin-op market. The original arcade version of Street Fighter II was awarded Best Game of 1991 in Gamest's 5th annual Grand Prize. Street Fighter II was named by Electronic Gaming Monthly as the Game of the Year for 1992. It also won the Golden Joystick Award for Game of the Year in 1992. Game Informer gave it the Best Game of the Year, and Electronic Games honored it with their Video Game of the Year award. Guinness World Records awarded Street Fighter II the world records of first fighting game to use combos, most cloned fighting game, and biggest selling coin-operated fighting game. Street Fighter II Champion Edition, released in March 1992, rebalances characters' power levels, allows both players in 2-player matches to select the same character and choose the 4 previously computer-only boss characters. In Japan alone, 140,000 arcade hardware units were sold at $1,300 each, earning $182 million in hardware sales revenue. In the United States, between 20,000 and 25,000 Champion Edition arcade units were sold. Turbo Hyper Fighting, released in December 1992, increased the playing speed and gave some characters new special moves. Street Fighter II Turbo went on to become the highest-grossing arcade game of 1993 in Japan. Worldwide, the SNES version sold 4.1 million copies in total, making it the 9th best-selling game for the console. In 1997, Electronic Gaming Monthly listed Street Fighter II Turbo as the best arcade game of all time. Super Street Fighter II. The new challengers released in September 1993 used the more advanced system, which allowed for updated graphics and audio. It introduces 4 new characters. In 1994, Mega Magazine listed Super Street Fighter II as the second best game of all time. In 1995, Total rated the game 6th on its Top 100 SNES games. In 2019, Game Informer ranked it as the third best fighting game of all time. Meanwhile, the popularity of the franchise was booming, and Hollywood released a Street Fighter motion picture starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia. The adaptation focuses on Colonel Guile fighting with General M.Bison, the military dictator of Shadaloo City who aspires to conquer the world with an army of genetic super soldiers. The film was commercially successful, while it earned Capcom a return of $165 million from the box office and home media. There was also a game based strictly on the movie. Street Fighter the movie was released on arcades, PlayStation, and Sega Saturn. It uses digitized images of the film's cast similar to the Mortal Kombat games. The PlayStation version was a commercial success upon release. It sold out in retail stores within a month, but it received mostly negative reviews, criticizing the slow and choppy animation, weak battle voices, and unpredictable frame redraw. An anime film, Street Fighter II. The animated movie by Group Tassi was released theatrically in Japan in 1994. It set the foundations for the franchise canon storyline, focusing on Ryu as main protagonist, while Guile being rather a supportive character. A video game adaptation of the film was released by Capcom exclusively in Japan for the PlayStation in 1995. It was shown at the 1995 Electronic Entertainment Expo under the title of Street Fighter II, the interactive movie. The film served as the basis for Street Fighter Alpha. Many elements and character designs were integrated into future games of the series. Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams, known as Street Fighter Zero in some parts of the world, was the first all-new Street Fighter game produced by Capcom since the release of Street Fighter II in 1991. It serves as a prequel to Street Fighter II and thus features younger versions of established characters, as well as characters from the original Street Fighter and Final Fight. The immediate character roster includes Ryu, Ken, Chun-li, and Sagat from the Street Fighter II series, along with Birdie and Adon, Sagat's former apprentice from the original Street Fighter. New to the series are Charlie, Guile's combat buddy, who uses the same special techniques, and Rose, who has ties to series antagonist m.bison. It went on to be the second highest grossing arcade game of 1995 in Japan. It was followed by Super Street Fighter Alpha 2 that came out in 1996. The game brings back all 13 characters from Street Fighter Alpha, with m.bison, Akuma, and Dan now being immediately selectable as playable characters. Alpha 2 also includes Dhalsim and Zangief, both from Street Fighter II, Jan, an assassin from the original Street Fighter, Rolento, a member of the Mad Gear from Final Fight, and newcomer Sakura, a Japanese schoolgirl who takes up street fighting after witnessing one of Ryu's battles. In the Japanese arcade magazine Gamest, Street Fighter Zero 2 was voted Best Game of 1996 in the 10th Annual Grand Prize. The Sega Saturn port was also a commercial success, selling over 400,000 units in Japan. X-Men vs. Street Fighter is a crossover fighting video game developed and published by Capcom in 1996. It features gameplay similar to Street Fighter, but incorporates dual character selection and tag team-based combat. Each player selects two characters to compete in a one-on-one battle. X-Men vs. Street Fighter features a roster of 17 playable characters. Game was only mildly popular when first released in North American arcades, but after several months it caught on and became a hit. Street Fighter EX is a spin-off of the Street Fighter series and was the first game in the series to feature 3D polygon graphics, although it retains the 2D plane gameplay. Dan Hatshu of Electronic Gaming Monthly said it was what should have been called Street Fighter 3, rather than the sprite-based game released under that name, and co-reviewer Howard Grossman said it has the attraction of 3D looks, 2D playability, and great options. The PlayStation version sold over 400,000 total copies, worldwide after its first year on sale, qualifying for the Platinum range. Street Fighter 3 New Generation was released in 1997. The game, which was designed as a direct sequel to Street Fighter 2, initially discarded every previous character except for Ryu and Ken, introducing an all-new roster led by Alex, whose initial goal is to avenge the defeat of his friend Tom at the hands of Jill, the leader of a secret organization which seeks to turn the Earth into a utopia. He can manipulate fire and ice. The other new feature introduced in Street Fighter 3 is Super Arts. This is a powerful, special move similar to a super combo in Super Turbo and the Alpha games. The game struggled to break even in Japan with a high budget of $8 million, while only selling 1,000 cabinets. Reviewers remarked that while the graphics are outstanding and the controls are flawless, the game lacks the innovation and series evolution that players expected it to deliver. Marvel Super Heroes vs. Street Fighter is a 1997 crossover fighting video game developed and published by Capcom. The game replaces most of the X-Men cast from the previous installment with characters from other Marvel properties. In addition, it introduces a new gameplay mechanic known as the variable assist. Much like its predecessor, the game received generally positive reviews for its gameplay, sprite animations, and character roster. Street Fighter 3 Second Impact is an updated version of News Generation released in 1997. It brought back all the characters from the first game and introduced two new ones, Hugo and Urien. Yun and Yang from the first game also became separate characters, with Yang receiving his unique set of special moves and super arts to distinguish him from Yun. In May 1998, Street Fighter EX2 was released. It is the sequel to the original Street Fighter EX and the second spin-off game of the Street Fighter series. The primary new feature in the game are Axel combos. 4 additional characters new to the X series, Blanca and Vega from Street Fighter 2, along with new characters Sharon and Hayate. The game also features 4 hidden characters. Kairi from the original EX returns as a hidden character, along with new characters Shadowgeist and Nancy. Garuda from the original EX returns as a boss character. GameSpot praised the new characters and the graphics, but complained about the static ending sequences as well as the lack of originality or new features. Street Fighter Alpha 3 was also released in 1998. It is the third and final installment in the Street Fighter Alpha sub-series. It discards the manual and auto modes from the previous Alpha games and instead offers 3 different playing styles known as isms. Several characters were added to the game: Kami, E Honda, Blanca, Balrog, and Vega. New characters include Mika, a Japanese female wrestler who idolizes Zangief; Karin, Sakura's rival who was first introduced in the Street Fighter manga; Cody from Final Fight, who has since become an escaped convict; and Julie and Junie, 2 of Shadaloo's dolls, who serve as Bison's assassins. In 2019, Game Informer ranked it as the 18th best fighting game of all time. In 1999, Capcom released Street Fighter 3, Third Strike on arcades, and 1 year later it was also ported to Sega Dreamcast. Third Strike increased the character roster by adding 5 new characters, notably including Chun-li. Also, Akuma became a regular character. All of the returning characters were given new stages, endings, and voice actors, continuing the overall storyline from where the first 2 games left off. It became Japan's 9th highest grossing arcade software kit of 1999. The home console version sold 56,741 units for the Dreamcast in Japan, 49,088 for the PS2 in Japan, and 60,246 for the Dreamcast in the United States. Retrospectively, Third Strike was ranked as the 11th best arcade game of the 1990s by Complex. The magazine also placed it 10th on their list of best 2D fighting games of all time in 2013. In March 2000, Street Fighter debuted on PlayStation 2 with Street Fighter EX3 released as one of the launch titles and exclusively for that console. It is the third and final console installment in the Street Fighter EX series. In its week of release, the game made the top 10 in the Japanese sales charts with 207,000 units. But the game received mixed reviews and currently holds the Metacritic score of 65 out of 100. With no new titles in the next 8 years, Capcom focused on releasing bundles. In 2003, Hyper Street Fighter, the Anniversary Edition, was created to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the Street Fighter series. It is a modified port of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo from 1994, in which players can control any versions of the main characters from the 5 Street Fighter 2 games previously released for the arcades. In 2004, it was followed by another bundle of 2 Street Fighter games, Hyper Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, released for PS2 and Xbox as Street Fighter Anniversary Collection. Later that same year, Capcom Fighting Jam, aka Capcom Fighting Evolution, was released. It features characters all taken from the rosters of Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Darkstalkers 3, as well as the single game Red Earth. There are 4 selectable characters representing each series. The game consists of 2-on-2 endurance-style matches. And finally, in 2006, Street Fighter Alpha Anthology came out on PlayStation 2, combining the 3 Alpha series. There was also Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix that had a high-definition version using graphics drawn by Yuden Entertainment. Despite not being released for the European PSN until February 2009, the title had 250,000 paid downloads within a month. It had broken both first day and first week sales for a download-only title. But Capcom waited for the next generation of consoles to release Street Fighter IV. The game features 3D models, but otherwise the gameplay and its mechanics remain in the traditional 2D style the series is known for. Focus attacks, known as saving attack in the Japanese version, is a new system introduced in Street Fighter. The focus attack is a move that allows the player to absorb an attack and launch a counterattack. Street Fighter IV takes place several months after the events of Street Fighter II. After m.bison's survival following his encounter with Akuma, the SIN Corporation began another fighting tournament in order to draw out the most powerful Street Fighters on Earth to complete the Bleach project, chronologically set between the Street Fighter II series and the Street Fighter III series. The playable character roster of the arcade version includes the cast of the original Street Fighter II. Akuma from Super Street Fighter II Turbo also appears as a hidden playable character, as well as a special opponent. Additionally, the game includes 2 more computer-controlled characters, Seth as the game's standard final boss, and Guken as a special opponent. The game received an aggregated score of 94 out of 100 from Metacritic for its PlayStation 3 version, 93 out of 100 for its Xbox 360 version, and 91 out of 100 for its Microsoft Windows version. Street Fighter IV also won Fighting Game of the Year at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards. The Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences awarded Street Fighter IV with Fighting Game of the Year. As of December 2024, Street Fighter IV has sold over 10 million copies across all versions, making it the second highest selling title in the series behind Street Fighter II. Super Street Fighter IV, an updated version of Street Fighter IV, was released in April 2010. Super Street Fighter IV includes several new online game modes, 5 new stages, a new announcer, and 10 additional characters. Among the added characters are returners T-Hawk, DJ, Adon, Guy, Cody, Ibuki, Makoto, and Dudley. An arcade version was released by Capcom in December 2010 titled Super Street Fighter R4 Arcade Edition, adding Yun, Yang, Evil Ryu, and Oni to the roster. In 2011, Super Street Fighter IV 3D edition was released exclusively for Nintendo 3DS. The 3D in its name refers to the 3DS hardware stereoscopic capabilities rather than a change to the in-game graphics. The game has sold 1.3 million units worldwide for 3DS. It utilizes the touchscreen to allow players to perform special abilities more easily. In 2012, Capcom presented Street Fighter X Tekken. In the game, each player selects two characters respectively and face each other as duos in tag team fighting matches. The gameplay is based on the 2D gameplay of Street Fighter. The game was well received by critics who complimented the roster and deep game mechanics. Nevertheless, it fell short of Capcom's sales expectations. Base roster includes 19 characters from each franchise. Also in 2012, another crossover was released exclusively for Microsoft Windows. Street Fighter X Mega Man was initially developed as a fan game, later received support from Capcom. Street Fighter franchise stages and characters such as Blanka, Chun-li, and Ryu take the place of the Robot Masters as the end-of-level bosses. Ultra Street Fighter 4 is the last updated version of SF4. The update introduces 6 new stages and 5 new characters: Rolento, Elena, Hugo, and Poison, in addition to De Capre, a member of m.bison's Dolls. Alongside the usual balance changes, the update introduces some new fighting mechanics like Red Focus. Street Fighter V was released in 2016 for PlayStation 4, Windows, and arcades. Yep, arcades were still holding strong in Japan in 2016. The game featured 16 characters at launch, with 4 of them being new to the series. A main story mode and 30 additional characters were added through updates and downloadable content. The game features the EX gauge introduced in Street Fighter 3, which builds as the player lands attacks and can be used to either power up special moves or perform super combos. The game featured 16 characters at launch, 4 of whom were new to the Street Fighter series. The story takes place between the events of Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter III. Years after he was killed by m.bison, Charlie Nash awakens in a tomb and is instructed by a young woman named Helen to retrieve an item from his old friend Guile that will help him destroy Bison. Meanwhile, the Shadaloo organization initiates Operation CHAINS by launching 7 artificial satellites in orbit known as the Black Moons, planning to spread fear and despair, the source of Bison's psycho power, and siphon this energy in order to render him and his forces invincible. At launch, the game initially sold lower than Capcom's expectations, with 54% of the reviews on Steam being negative. IGN described the game as an excellent fighting game that's missing too many features. On May 12th, Capcom CEO Kenzo Tsujimoto admitted that Street Fighter V had a lack of content. The Guardian refused to score the game, concluding, "Street Fighter V is an unfinished catastrophe, a game delivered half-cooked, as if to meet a financial deadline rather than an artistic one." Arcade Edition, that came out in 2017 as a free downloadable update, turned out to fix all the issues and received great reviews, plus it was nominated for Best Fighting Game at the Game Awards 2018 and for Fan Favorite Fighting Game at the Gamer's Choice Awards. By May 2020, Capcom announced that Street Fighter V had shipped a combined total of 4.5 million units across the PS4 and PC platforms, digital downloads included, surpassing Monster Hunter 4 and making it to Capcom's top 10 best-selling games of all time. As of December 2023, Street Fighter V has sold 7.4 million units. Back in 2017, Ultra Street Fighter 2, The Final Challenges, was released on Nintendo Switch. The game features updated high-definition art and new gameplay mechanics and modes. In May 2018, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, including arcade versions of 13 classic Street Fighter titles, starting from the original Street Fighter from 1987 up to Street Fighter 3 Third Strike from 1996, but fans waited until 2023 for the next main game in the franchise. Street Fighter 6 supports cross-platform play and rollback netcode. The game features a real-time commentary system, providing a tournament-style feel, and the option to cheer on the player. The game continues the 2.5D style introduced in Street Fighter 4. The main fighting gameplay of Street Fighter 6 is based around the drive gauge, a system designed to encourage player creativity. The gauge can be used for 5 different techniques. The World Tour employs a story about a martial artist created by the player. He and Bosch are rookie fighters trained by Luke in Metro City, as they wonder what is necessary to become stronger. Despite the initial bond the two students share, Bosch disappears after training with Luke, causing the player avatar to chase him around the world after learning he had become associated with the Mad Gear criminal organization. The game introduces 7 new characters, including Kimberly Jackson, an African-American female ninja and pupil of series character Guy. Street Fighter 6 sold over 1 million units within 5 days after launch. By June 2025, sales had surpassed 5 million units. In Japan, the PlayStation 5 version of Street Fighter 6 was the third highest-selling physical game during its first week of release, with 21,192 retail units being sold. It won Best Fighting Game Award at the Game Awards 2023, along with Fighting Game of the Year Award on the 27th Annual DACE Awards. Street Fighter 6 is currently in its second year, and Capcom shows no signs of slowing down. Capcom is supporting SF6 with regular balance updates, Battle Hub events, and live service content that keeps the community engaged. The future of Street Fighter looks bright, powered by the continued success of SF6 and Capcom's renewed focus on both innovation and preservation.